This is One Sentence News, a daily podcast featuring 3 news stories with a sentence-long summary and 1 sentence of context apiece. I'm Colin Wright. This is a sponsored message. I've been using Anchor as my podcast host for a while now, and it's been a pleasure to use. Anchor offers benefits that most other hosts do not. It's free to use, but it also has a collection of tools that allow you to create a podcast completely within the Anchor website or smartphone app. They distribute your show to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other distribution channels without any additional effort on your part, and you can make money from your podcast without any minimum audience size. So you can use it as a more traditional podcast host like I do, but it's also got everything you need to start a podcast from scratch. If you're keen to give it a shot, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's Wednesday, March 1st, 2023. Let's talk about the news. From Bloomberg, shortage of onions threatens a new chapter in global food crisis. Warnings from the United Nations and World Bank suggest that staple vegetables, especially onions, are rising in price in key markets around the world, indicating we could soon see a global shortage and dramatic price spikes. This warning arrived shortly after a shortage of other staples like wheat began to subside, especially in poorer markets, and would seem to be the consequence of horrible flooding in Pakistan, frost damage to onion stockpiles in Central Asia, severe and ongoing droughts in North Africa, and supply chain impacts from Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This new shortage is most pronounced in the Philippines, Kazakhstan, and a few other markets right now, but is expected to ripple outward over the next few months and to carry over to other vital vegetables as well. From Axios, scientists want near moratorium on geoengineering to cool climate for now. A new report released by a UN-convened expert panel suggests that while geoengineering intended to reduce the impacts of global climate change in dramatic and short-term ways might be necessary at some point, it's nowhere near ready for safe deployment currently, and we would need to do a lot more research before even considering it. One of the most likely to be used geoengineering methods is called solar radiation modification, and it basically involves injecting reflective particles into the Earth's atmosphere in order to bounce some of the heat from the sun back into space before it reaches the surface of the planet. This approach is inspired by what we've seen happen when volcanoes erupt, sulfur and other particles cooling planetary conditions for months or even years after large eruptions. But the consequences of attempting something similar artificially is not yet known, and researchers in this space are essentially saying that while we might want to have this technique available in our back pocket, just in case things go really sideways at some point, and we desperately need to slow global warming rapidly, it's far more ideal that we don't reach that point, and instead focus on ameliorating climate change at the source by reducing emissions and investing in carbon drawdown approaches. And from Quartz, Biden is banking on chip makers to further his affordable childcare plans. U.S. chip manufacturers angling for $150 million or more in subsidies will need to submit a plan for providing low-cost, high-quality childcare services to their workers to be eligible for those funds. This policy won't apply to all companies vying for a portion of the $52.7 billion in government subsidies being offered as part of a larger effort to expand the U.S.'s in-country semiconductor infrastructure and supply chains, but it is notable in that it will force many of the larger programs to include what's historically been considered a perk, but which is increasingly being seen as a necessity for companies wanting to attract and retain workers, which in turn should help grow the U.S.-based labor force, allow more women to join and stay at such companies, and provide for families who would otherwise be forced to make non-ideal economic decisions if they want to have and take good care of their children at a moment in which childcare services are increasingly scarce and expensive in the country. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and/or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com. And you can support this and other related projects, like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts, at understandery.com.